Hey, what's up, guys? It's George from RacingClipsandPicks.com. I got to sit down with Rajah Caruth, and we talked about everything from what got him into racing and how important family is when it comes to driver dynamics. Enjoy. And including you, got into racing from the movie Cars and other movies
Yep,
kind of in that time period. When did you realize you could turn the hobby and passion of racing into a career?
man, it took a while. I would say I always believed that I could race. I would say I would describe it like that. I always wanted to race, but I think the moment where I realized, hey, I could make it work. I guess I'll put it this way. I grew up like watching the Cars movie and all the stop motions, all that stuff on YouTube as a kid. And then when I went to my first race at Richmond, I was 12. I definitely at that point was like, this is what I wanted to do. And then from that point forward, I knew that I needed to be starting to race something to get started. And I started racing online.
Mm.
And I never, I guess, really felt like, I guess I always thought I could, but I think at the same time, I was like, man, it's easy to kind of not believe it's true. And there was definitely times where I didn't think it was possible, but I just kept my head down, kept striving to do anything that I could possibly do to get behind the wheel. So there wasn't like a set moment that I was like, hey, this is possible.
Mm.
Because every milestone I was like, okay, well, what's the next thing I have to do to make sure my foot's in the door? Next thing I have to do to get prepared for the next race. I guess that's the way I would put it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, got it. I know you briefly talked about iRacing there. How did that time in iRacing and eNASCAR shape you before you went into a real car? What did you take from that, go into the real thing?
Yeah, man. I would say with iRacing, I was on, and honestly, I'll even go further back. I played NASCAR 2011, NASCAR 14, NASCAR the game Inside Line, NASCAR 15. I played all those games on the PlayStation before I even got on iRacing. And with that being said, um, I think even I didn't even realize that at the time, but I was developing a baseline of instincts and racing IQ, even at as much of a layman's level as that probably was.
Yeah.
There was some sort of racing that I was figuring out and learning. And then from then forward, obviously, I got on iRacing, and some of my friends that I made from racing on the PlayStation parlayed to getting me started and showing me the ropes on iRacing. And then from there, I think that just the pure experience that you get from iRacing. I mean, you can race so much on there, especially on COVID. Like you could, with the time with everybody being at home, there are so many opportunities to race. And then in those races, right? Like it's safety rated, obviously, and that's how your licenses are determined. But there's so many viable reps that you get at going through certain situations, and I probably didn't realize it in the moment, but looking back at it, a lot of things that I learned what to do and what not to do have helped me on the racetrack now. And that's pretty cool to see, to reflect on it.
Yeah. And I know, that eNASCAR opportunity helped out with the Drive for Diversity program. What did you learn from that program, off the track? What's it like, from the marketing or business perspective of racing?
I think not only from the Drive for Diversity program, but also from um my college education and my time at Winston-Salem State. I learned, and honestly, my dad too, with his background in education, and not just educating, but like sports marketing and sports business and everything. I fortunately had a pretty good playbook to work from and learn from. But I'd say the biggest things I learned from my time at Rev was like how important your team is, right? Like building relationships with your mechanics and all those people. That's super valuable, because when you're not there at the shop, those guys care about how you treat them, how you communicate with them, and if you care or not at the end, whether you care or not at the end of the day. Whereas, or in addition to that, I learned the importance of social media. I learned um, what it means to do interviews, how to present yourself, trying to be on time, which I still struggle with to this day. I mean, I mean, a lot of people do that, obviously, do
Yeah.
struggle with that. But there's so many things that I learned during that time that was valuable. And even like not even necessarily doctored lessons, but just like experiences that I was, whether it's how it is to show up to the track on time to get your credentials and traveling with the team and all these little things that added up over time that I just and it's nice because those experiences I learned though the things I learned through those experiences, I should say, I would say a lot of people also had similar experiences growing up racing at their local tracks or with their families across the country.
Yeah, and kind of referring to the local track stuff. I know you probably consider yourself from three different hometowns. So how is that working out when you're living in DC, living in Brooklyn compared to Atlanta? Like, was there still a lot of opportunities to get that racing, or just had to just stay at home and be at the sim?
Yeah, literally it was the only opportunities for me um were online. Like you mentioned in Brooklyn, right? I mean, that's a city,
Yeah.
and DC is a city. Atlanta's a little different, right? And I didn't spend a lot of my childhood in Atlanta
Mhm.
outside of holidays and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But Atlanta was probably the closest place that had racing, right? With Thursday Thunder at the Speedway and Lanier not that far. Um, Plenty of places nearby. In Georgia, right? And with the Carolinas, but in DC, there was probably some that were around at the time
Mhm.
with Shenandoah Speedway, Southside Speedway, tracks in Virginia, maybe some tracks in Maryland, Pennsylvania, but I had no clue about it because I didn't have a family history in it, no connections, and I there could have been a track 10 miles from where I lived at, and I wouldn't have known for the first
Mm.
part of my journey just because of not knowing anybody. But I did the research and did all the due diligence to try to chase the dream, and fortunately got connected with some people through online and going to races for the first time and got myself in the door.
Yeah, that's kind of very similar to me because I live in the Poconos right now. I've been born and raised practically in the Poconos. And I went to my first race when I was 5, and my dad, we both knew nothing about racing because again, I was a child. He was a guy from Long Island, New York, and we didn't realize that Pocono Raceway was even a thing, and that we lived 20 minutes away from it until later on. So it's kind of cool where it's like you kind of like discover these new things, which I could realize like, oh, this is near me. I can actually do this. So it's very cool to see like how people with no racing background are starting to become bigger names in motorsport. So it shows like how important that online aspect is too.
I agree, and I think to be clear on my end, like it wasn't necessarily by happenstance that I ended up being trying to chase a career in racing. Like this has been all I've ever wanted to do for sure. And I think I've been fortunate that I've been able to get to where I'm at through people, because racing, which I can probably say is similar to other forms things of life, like racing is the people. And man, I've been fortunate to meet some great people that have helped me along the way. And with that being said, like this has been everything that I've wanted to do. Uh so yeah.
Yeah. So I know, it's been a very long journey for you. What has been the toughest setback so far in your climb through the ranks, and what did you learn from it?
I think there's been a lot of what's the word? There's been a lot of mm, I'm trying to think of setback is the word. There's been a lot of tough moments, tough learning lessons, times where I could have given up. I
Yeah.
think I've been fortunate to get a lot of opportunities and put myself in position to take advantage of them. But there's been a lot of times where I could have given up, whether there was a mistake I've made or a mistake or something I didn't know, or just bad circumstances or things that didn't end up working out for me. The people I had around me at the time, my parents, my sister, a lot of friends that I have and extended family and members of teams that I had around me at that time. There was, I'll bring up uh, in 2022 at my third Xfinity or O'Reilly race at Pocono.
Mhm.
I wrecked on the second lap of the race and I had an in-car camera. It was pretty much a home race for me. I'd say probably three or four racetracks are home races for me. Pocono being one of them. The others are Richmond, Dover, and Atlanta. And really, for me to make that mistake, that was tough, and I felt like I failed in that moment. With everything that was part of that race, doing the camera and having family there, and I thought I failed, and I'll never forget. I was in the Chevrolet program at that time, and Tyler Reddick was in it at the same time,
Mhm.
and I he had gave me some great advice because he had had a similar spots in his career where he felt like he failed and made a big mistake, and in that moment, it definitely is right to feel that way, but what's more important is how you respond to those moments and don't make those same mistakes again. And that was a very freeing conversation and time that I had because at that point, I mean, that was my 4 years ago. I wasn't even driving a stock car or a late model, and at that point, I was driving at the second highest level of NASCAR racing. And sure, maybe that may have been quick to move up to that level, but I didn't have any. That was my shot to get my name out there. There was no alternative or no other real place for me to go to put my name out there and show my capabilities behind the wheel. And with that being said, that conversation with Tyler was it meant a lot to me. And that's just one example of different mistakes or setbacks that I've had that a lot of people have had similar in those careers. And the important thing about it is when you go through those things, it's not about what you did. You obviously have to take accountability for the mistake and learn from it, but it's how you respond. It's how you move forward from it. It's how you treat the people around you during those trying moments. Because it'd be easy to be negative. It's easy to be mean to people, to be jaded, and all these things. And it's important to still, in my mind, still be humble and treat people how the way that you'd like to be treated, and all those things. So I hope that makes sense. I rambled for a little bit,
Oh
but
no,
I've
you're
definitely had a
right.
lot of times where I could have given up, and I had great people around me to keep me going on the right direction.
Yeah, I feel like, with drivers, like with fans, they don't understand that. Like they see a driver crash and they think like, oh, it's gonna ruin their season, their whole mentality, but they don't realize like drivers have these very big support systems behind them, but they're behind the scenes. And I think like, you just diving into that opens a lot of perspective to that because you realize like, oh, these drivers are humans just like me. Like, whenever I have an issue, I fall back to my sisters, my mom, and it's very cool that you open up to that to see that drivers have the same thing. So
Yeah, bro,
yeah,
exactly. You get it.
yeah, because like yeah, like so like my grandmother, she's born raised in Pittsburgh, very 1900s family, very kind of old school like that, and one cousin, like one of her siblings was a postwoman for the city of Pittsburgh for 50 something years. My uncle, her brother was one of the most powerful lawyers in DC. So it's cool, like everyone had their own thing that if I had an issue or something, I can know who to go to. So I think like just having, a big support system, a big kind of group to talk to can help out with like even the littlest things like, oh, I need help with this financial thing. I can go to this cousin. Oh, like I need to get my mind right. I can go to this cousin. So
For
it's very
sure.
important to have those like massive like support systems. Just professionally and personally too.
Yeah, it takes a village. It takes
Yeah.
a village.
Yeah. And like, it's really cool that like family and friends that you completely trust that they don't even have to ask you what's wrong. Like they immediately can just tell something's off and they're just immediately there for you. It's very helpful too because you don't need to be like, oh, I'm slumping through the season, like I'm crashing every week. I don't know what's going on with the car. They can just say, hey, you don't look like yourself, Roger. Like, what can we talk about? So I think it's like, it's very important to have that.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. I think about thanks for sharing that. That's pretty powerful. I think uh like I'll bring up LeVar, like he's had a year, man, and a lot of that's been completely out of his control. And I would say I'm probably 75% of it has been out of control,
Yeah.
especially this weekend. Like that wreck just happening right in his lap. But I know how that feels. And for me, it's been important just to keep reaching out and just saying, hey, just keep showing up. Like it sucks. I know I probably didn't even have it I didn't have it as bad as he has it right now.
Oh yeah,
But uh what goes up must come down and vice versa. It's important to keep as even as you can be because it'll come back in your favor at some point. So overall, it takes a village, man. As you mentioned, it takes a village, and it's as important as it is for those people to pour into you.
mm,
As you know, you gotta repay it and reciprocate that.
yeah. And just I guess we kind of move on past that. I know you're having a very interesting season, driving two different cars. Some weeks you're in 32. Most weeks you're in 88. Like, how are you mentally resetting between the two teams because they're both completely different organizations?
Changes on my end, going from car to car.
Yeah,
Like I do the same thing. I do the same thing that I can and drive the car as fast as I think it can go, get the most out of it, try to keep us in the game and make good decisions on restarts and stuff like that.
yeah,
I think from a mental perspective, and I mean it's tough. I mean, this weekend I knew I had a chance to win in Atlanta. Like
yeah.
I knew
That
going
was
there, I'm like, I know I'm capable. I know what the team is capable of, and I know what we've shown. And we're going to be fighting for the win all night, and we were. And some other times, when I haven't been in the 88, I know that hasn't been the reality, and that's been tough. Not as tough because it's not like I'm blindsided. But I kind of know what the reality of what a successful day is, in that car, whether it's fighting for a top 15 or maybe scraping for a top 20 or even getting the top 10. I think those have been the biggest differences. And I mean, in that same vein, like even going from racetrack to racetrack in the 88, like I know going into the road courses, I was like, man, like I hope I can just have solid days. And San Diego, I didn't do that, but Sonoma I did because I know that they're not my strong suits. They're not my strong suits, and I've kind of struggled at them for a minute. Not getting discouraged by the outcome if it's not racing for the win because I know what the reality is of that day.
yeah. And I know you touched on this before, but how has your race week prep evolved from when you first started, a couple years ago? Like, what have you has it been big changes or just little tweaks in your race week prep, or I guess routine?
Yeah, just little tweaks. Honestly, I would say that when I first started, I was like just treating it like a cramming for a big test, like asking everybody, doing all this studying, and honestly, like I didn't know anything. So that's why I went and did all that stuff because I didn't know anything. I didn't have any experience. I hadn't been to these racetracks for the first time. Or I should say, I was going to a lot of these racetracks for the first time. And, first times on pit road and doing restarts and chooses and all these things. And I had to treat it like that because I just didn't know anything. And now having gone to these racetracks, and that was the great thing about truck racing is that say what you want about the rules and the competitors and whatever. Um, Getting those reps at those tracks is invaluable. Whereas for a different another set of drivers or something that go straight into O'Reilly, right? Like they're gonna be fine.
Yeah,
Like they're gonna be fine. Most of them are good enough. Um, like they're gonna be fine with the experience, right? But it helped me get started off on a better foot because I'd been to a Rockingham, I'd been to a Texas or a lot of these places before when I was truck racing. I'd been to Pocono, I'd been to a lot of
mm,
these places before. And that'll be the same kind of moving forward. Like, thinking about St. Louis coming up, and places like that. Now, the only time it kind of hurts me though will be Iowa because I didn't run it last year. But overall, I'd say, yeah, it's just the experience has helped and just added to my prep.
yeah. Kind of just talk more about that prep. Like in the off season, what do you do to get better? I know some drivers they do dirt, some do late models. I know Bubba was doing the Daytona 24 to help on the road course stuff. Are you planning to do any of that in the future, or just kind of just sticking at home, just in the gym, just doing what you do now?
Definitely both. I'm looking to travel to Australia in the wintertime,
Okay.
to do a driving school out there. Same with looking to go to Bondurant out in I believe it's Las Vegas or
Yeah.
Arizona, one of those two. So it's a balance in the wintertime of recharging your batteries, but also putting in work. And I think last year I enjoyed the off season and I did a good balance of both. And now the experience of this first year in O'Reilly, I know what I'll need to do to be able to work effectively in the off season and get my energy back and make sure my body heals and recovers, and then also um, put work into the and attention to the areas that need them.
Yeah. And kind of moving on to a new topic here, what does it mean to be one of a handful of black drivers to win a NASCAR National Series level?
I would say that it's special. It meant a lot to earn that milestone 2 years ago
Mm.
because I remember watching Bubba win at Martinsville for the first time. I read about people like Willie T. Ribbs, Bill Lester, Mark Davis, obviously Wendell Scott, and knowing the Scott family. Um, Elias Bowie. Even before that, there's so many people that I read about growing up that were really fighting to get opportunities like the ones that I had. And it meant a lot to capitalize that night for the first time in Vegas. That meant the world to earn that accomplishment. And in terms of what it means, big picture, I welcome that responsibility to be a representative for those that look like us, because I know what it feels like to not look and see anybody that looks like you and something
Yeah.
that you love, and representation is so important. So
Yeah,
I
no,
love it. I love it, and thankful that I get to share that memory, share that accolade with some very special individuals, and hopefully it's not a as we continue to grow, right? It's not a conversation of one of the few. Maybe it's just normal with how we continue to grow and diversify. I
yeah, no,
should say.
yeah, because it's been such a huge boom over the last like 20 years. Like I remember I bumped into you at Pocono, I think last year. I was talking about that, where it's like I've been going to Pocono since 2005, and I think like when we first went there, we were probably the only black people at the whole track that weren't working. And just like to see now, where it's just like so many diversity, diverse people coming from, making the drive from Jersey, coming down from New York, it's just so cool to see how that's changed. Like I know, like when I went to my first ever race in Texas at 2004, my someone asked my dad like, "Oh, who you rooting for today?" I think we're at the truck race, and my dad said Bill Lester. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he was like a superhero to us because like we would read about the black drivers, but we never saw it. So like Wendell Scott was like I guess a cartoon like superhero because I never envisioned that. So I think to see this huge boom of like new drivers coming in is going to change things and kind of normalize things too.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. Like the representation is important, especially when it's authentic and we're performing and earning our spots and presented with those opportunities, because otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to come our way for various reasons.
Yeah. And then also I know you talk about Bubba and winning at Martinsville. Like I know you have a very deep connection with him. How important is that? And like, what's the most important thing he's taught you so far?
Uh, well, the one of the first lessons that he gave me was don't or stop being scared of the wall.
Mhm.
Um, that was one of the very first lessons he gave me at Legend Cars, and I mean, there's been so many things that he's helped me with along the way, and I'm so thankful to have somebody like that in my corner, because there's a lot of people that want to help or express their support for somebody, and only do that because of what they'll get out of that, of sharing that information, or what they'll get out of you. And it's rare to find people that care enough to share and help you out along your career path, that just want you to succeed and do well, or even do better than that they want to do than they do. I guess you get what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah.
I feel that way about Bubba, because he's done so much for me in my career. I mean, he paid for one of my first helmets to get painted. Like
Wow.
he's been there every step of the way.
That's really yeah, I never knew that. That's really cool to learn about that. Like just seeing the camaraderie. Lewis Hamilton's been kind of a big influence to him, and to see him passing that down to you is really cool.
For
To
sure.
see that happen. And talk a little more about learning. I know, I talked to actually Lane Riggs last year, and he also got his degree at UNC Charlotte. I think
Mechanical engineering is
yeah.
what he got it in. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, how important is it for, drivers to get degrees while racing? Like, I know it's probably good. It's obviously a backup plan, but like, how important is it to show that, hey, I can do multiple things at the same time and still compete at the highest level?
Yeah. I mean, at first I thought it was a backup plan, but I think for me, it's just added to my value as a not just a racer, but as a brand. And I think Lane can probably say the same thing. Because it's the higher you go up the ladder, you have to be more than a driver. You can't just race because there's a lot of people that are exceptional race car drivers, but I mean, that doesn't that doesn't sell merch. That doesn't get
Yeah,
people to tune into races. Um, that doesn't help grow the sport. And you need to have the whole picture. And for both of us, it's funny, both of us have the same birthday as well to the year. So that I always think about him being my twin from a different household. But I would say, man, it's you gotta have the whole picture and honestly, I think he does a great job and with not just on the racetrack but off the racetrack and what he does with his alumni and yeah, overall I'm great to see the success that he's gotten and I would say that having that degree it's not essential or a degree is not essential, right? But it adds a lot of value um to yourself as a brand.
because whenever I ask this question, everyone says Daytona 500, but where do you want to be in 5 years, and what do you hope for your presence in NASCAR means?
Yeah, I'd say, man, it'd be cool to make a cup start soon, but I gotta win at this level so far.
Yeah,
So, I'd say overall, man, in 5 years, hope to still be racing, um, at the cup level. I would say racing at the cup level would be my goal and hope for in 5 years. But I mean, wherever the journey takes me, man, that's kind of where I'm at, and I want to see I want to just go one race, one year at a time, and I know everything will sort itself out. But yeah, definitely would love to be in Sundays at some point.
yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect way to describe that. And kind of going back to what we talked about before, with sports marketing. I know, you've been doing a whole bunch of stuff off the track. With the Rose Parade, the family business, being in a couple documentaries. What do you think about the visibility, and what kind of impact do you want it to have on the next generation of drivers?
Think on the next generation, man, I mean, I think it's important, and I say this a lot, whether it's panels or different events that I do. Like, I don't want to sell a dream. Like,
Yeah,
racing is hard to make a career in, especially at the top three levels of NASCAR. It's even harder in F1 and IndyCar.
yeah,
There's not a lot of annual turnover from a driver's perspective. Um, that's just not fair to sell that dream. But with that being said, like there's a lot of place to be involved in the sport and still, fit or meet that competitive desire of trying to win as a team.
yeah,
And I think I try to share that like racing is cool. It's a unifying sport. It's co-ed and all those things, and it's a lot of fun because race cars are cool at the end of the day.
yeah,
I think that also I like to make it clear that like it's not just racing that um this is applicable to. It's applicable to other sports, other forms of entertainment and everything. And overall, it's that you can do anything that you want to put your mind to and that nobody can put kind of limits on you. So I think that's the thing I try to share. And again, it's not fair to sell a dream about being a racer because I got super fortunate with the people that I met and where I'm at now to be able to chase this dream. But it wouldn't be fair to say that this would be a plug and play plan to be a race car driver. And it's not impossible by any means, but at the same time, it's just super, super hard.
yeah. And before we head to the fan questions, I have one kind of final interview question. What do you want your trophy cabinet to look like, when you look back in 20, 30 years?
I mean, KB's trophy space is pretty awesome, but man, that's tough. I don't know. I mean, I think bottom line, I want to have a Monster Mile trophy. A Monster Mile trophy would be the trophy. Like, obviously, I want a championship trophy of any series of a Daytona 500 trophy, all those things. The Southern 500 one's great. I think I can earn all those in due time, but the Dover one would mean the most to me, just of being a home race for me.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, it's like because you run so well at the Dover sister track, at Nashville. You know,
Hmm.
they used to own that, so it's just like you have to get Dover. So I think you're gonna get it soon. I feel it. What has been your favorite media or partnership activation with JRM or Chevy so far?
Mm, Dang, that's a good question. I think with Chevrolet, I got to drive two electric cars. I drove the Blazer EVSS last year, Chicago Street Course. That was pretty fun. Um, Driving the car was fun. Obviously, it was kind of orchestrated with the. I mean, it was a showcase, right? Not a race, but driving the car was pretty cool. Um, Man, JRM is it's been great being at JRM, man. Like I can just be a fan, and I've enjoyed every second of it so far. So I'd say it was really cool this year actually. Fan Day at JRM was pretty cool this year, and being around all the fans, hearing different stories and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. Um, I'd say also doing the merch hauler every week. That's pretty dope as well.
Also one more kind of JRM question a fan had. What is it like trying to work at Junior Motorsports every day?
It's fun. It's fun. I am feeling I'm having fun, I guess is the way I'd say it. Like I being a fan is being satisfied, I guess. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I have a lot of joy going to the shop every day, a lot of joy working with my team and everything. So
I feel like it's just like such a weird, like it must feel like walking into, I guess, like, I don't know, like Yankee Stadium for the first time. Like I've always like envisioned something like that. Yeah, I've always like, I remember like when I applied there for some, I forgot what position a couple years ago. I was like, if I get this job, like I might actually cry. So it's really
yeah,
cool to see how you describe that.
yeah, it's pretty awesome if I'm be honest.
How would you build your ideal or dream racetrack? For me, I would say like turns 1 and 2 based on Homestead, 3 and 4 based on Darlington 3 and 4, but like the track service of old Atlanta.
Oh man, old Atlanta was I would have loved to drive there, but man, you know what I would do? I would make a racetrack. I would take a venue like okay, take FedEx Field, right? They're rebuilding RFK to have football there and all the games at RFK, right? I would do that. I would with them leaving FedEx Field, I would if I had $1 trillion, I would build a racetrack. I would build a racetrack facility on that same land, that same area,
Hmm.
in Maryland, just outside of DC. And I'm torn because I'd want to have like progressive banking is amazing. Um, I love the mile and a halves, but like doing a big mile and a half in a city setting isn't going to make sense, right? So you'd want to have a short track, right? But it's got to have some speed. The facility also it's got to live year round, right? So it's got to have like a country club or a track day type of aspect of it, an event space aspect of it. It's got to be able to survive outside of just the NASCAR races there.
Hmm.
So I'd probably make a somewhat of a short track on that land in Maryland, just outside of DC, right? To do that, I mean, you could argue that it oversaturates the market, right? Because there's Dover there, there's Richmond,
Yeah.
um, but I don't know, maybe because I'm from there, I do that. But if I had to build a racetrack, it'd be progressive bank to like a mile and a quarter,
Uh,
kind of like Darlington, kind of like Nashville sized, and Make it maybe progressive banked. I don't know what the surface would be like. I mean, I'm really good at concrete tracks, but they're not always the best for racing. Um, so I'd probably say asphalt, mile and a quarter progressive banked racetrack, and it could be like the original Atlanta where it's just a oval. It could be. Um, I'd do it that way actually. I'd do that.
And question: what has been your most favorite paint scheme you've ever ran so far in your career?
My favorite paint scheme. I mean, the Hendrick cars, Ricky Hendrick paint scheme is, and it's really cool to drive that thing. The Wendell Scott throwback or tribute that I drove in 2024 at Darlington, I really like that one. Trying to think of the ones I've driven so far. The Vent CC32 car was cool having um the some of the skyline of DC. That was really cool. A lot of the cars I've drove the 32 and have been nice. The Black Effect car was awesome. The iRacing car was awesome. The Donut Media car was awesome. Um, I'm trying to think. And then my ARCA cars were pretty cool. Having Winston-Salem State on it and kind of the Dayglow numbers was pretty cool too.
Got it. Yeah, thank you so much for that.